Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us for one of our HFA webinars. I'm Mark Schumacher, the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association, and it's always my pleasure to host our webinars. And I need to point out right out of the gates here that if you go to myhfa.org/webinar, you will find a library of wonderful 1-hour segments, all of our webinars on a number of subjects, every subject you can think of that'll help you drive your business. So I hope that you will go there. I want to also, by the way, before I get out of the gates here, to also thank Synchrony. They are the thought leader when it comes to our education programs here and our sponsor, and we thank them for being a part of what we do here. Also, just to really kind of give you a quick bit of housekeeping, to the right of your screen, you've got a little box that says chat. If you have any questions you'd like us to address, put them in there. We'll get them to us and we'll work to get to as many as we can, because today we're talking about driving traffic. Wow. Is there one thing that could be more common for everybody in our industry than that, and especially when times are interesting and people aren't just kind of coming out of the woodwork? So we have got today a couple of terrific professionals here to help us along the way here to really provide some good insights. First, I want to introduce Scott Perry, and you recognize both of these gentlemen. Scott Perry has been in our industry in high-level marketing positions for 27 years, including a couple of stints with large top 100s. And also I found out as we were getting together for this that he actually helped establish the first two, believe it or not, first two furniture websites back in the 90s. And so, holy smokes, you're aging very well, my friend. But Scott, we thank you thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here, Mark. Thanks for making me cool.
And also we have Eric Grindley here. He's the CEO and co-founder of Esquire Advertising, and let me just say it now because we're going to officially, in a big way, honor them next month. But they were chosen as HFA's Partner of the Year in our Retailer of the Year awards, and I will mention this when that happens next month. But that's not a popularity contest. That is something where Esquire had to be nominated and had to put together a very in-depth packet for the judges to choose them. So Eric, thank you for being here, and the first time I've had the chance outwardly to say congratulations. We're proud to have you.
Congratulations, that's awesome. Well deserved.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So, holy smokes, guys! When you talk about driving traffic, I mean, it seems like even in moments, let's just say those moments after the doors reopened, and when they were closed for COVID, and we had that pent up demand. I mean, even at that point, as everything is just kind of coming, you still had people that were like, how do we continue to capitalize and drive traffic? So, Eric, I'm going to start with you. Let's just, before we get into the real granular stuff here, would you just kind of define for everybody right now what you think are the biggest challenges faced with driving traffic in this environment right now, when we have, as we know, we've got inflationary, economy surrounding us, and certainly potentially a recession looming. We've got so many things going on. So what are the challenges right now today in 2023?
Man, there's so many. I would actually, argue to say that I think we're actually already in a recession. I mean, I know that, like, economically speaking, by the definition, that we're probably not. But if you look at just like the cost of everything across the board, I don't care if it's food products or furniture products, it doesn't matter. Everything's up, right? So the dollar it's just not going as far as it was. And when you had all that pent up demand from COVID, you also had a lot of stores that opened. One of the things that happened that we saw in 2021 and 22 was not only just a growth in sales, but you also saw a growth in store openings in retail for the first time in years. Usually the closures outpace the openings, but for the first time, openings outpace the closures. So you had all these retailers that came on the market that I would say were less experienced, and were just sort of like, it was one of those times where you could, if you had product, you could sell it. You didn't have to know how to get people into your store. So you also have a lot of inexperienced retailers out there that are now stuck in a situation that they actually have to work to get the business. They have to work to get people in. And so you have, obviously the economic pressures that are pushing down on that. California being one of the states that's been hit the hardest. Foot traffic in California is down worse than any other state in the nation. And it's hard to understand why that would be. other than like, and I don't live there, Scott does, maybe he could give even better insight into this, but things cost more in California and therefore inflation hits them harder. And when you have to decide between, should I, get chicken and butter and steak, or should I, maybe go buy a couch, you're always going to be up against that. And then even though a lot of things have come back to normal as far as, getting furniture in a timely manner, there is still, a significant wait to actually get something. And so I think some consumers were a little bit, I don't know if disenfranchised is the right word, but if you experienced buying furniture in 2021 and 2022, you had a kind of a terrible experience. More often than not, you were given a date that was 8 to 12 weeks out, and then it turned out to be 16 to 20, which then turned out to be 24 to 32. And sometimes it just never even showed up. So you have also all these people that are like, looking for a better experience. And I think it's actually been a good thing for the smaller independent local retailers, the ones that have capitalized on the fact that they can talk about the fact that they're local and that their customer service is local. But those pressures are there and they're going to remain there for quite some time. And so you're not just going to have normal footfall traffic like you usually get. You're not going to have just those shoppers that are going to stop in. You actually have to go out there and work for that traffic now.
Okay, so that's why we're here today, right? Scott, would you agree with that as well? That it's got to be really purposeful how you drive it now.
And just to weigh in a little bit on the California thing, I mean, with our industry so closely tied to housing and movement and real estate, when interest rates were 3% versus where they are now at like 6%, I was just kind of doing a little exercise, a few hours ago, and say you bought a house, for X amount of dollars, back 2 or 3 years ago, that same house now, your payment is literally 70 or 80% higher than it would be. So, the housing activity, people buying and moving, has kind of come to like a standstill. The people that are in their homes are staying there, because why would you move and take on a payment that's so much more, unless you're moving out of state, which a lot of people are also. And we're still faced with $5 gas, and I went to Sam's Club and a 3-pack of steaks is like $60, So, and eggs and butter, I was hearing Eric talk about eggs and butter, and I'm thinking that's kind of a luxury sometimes to some people now. So, everyone's crunched and the stimulus money is over and taxes are a little bit higher. So it's definitely a challenge in California. I would totally agree with that.
Well, and the other part of this too is that we also know that we're fighting for a small piece of discretionary spending too. That has also shrunk down, right? We saw those hit some really amazing levels during the months after COVID really kind of came out of the darkness, and now we're back there. So let's start peeling this onion back then, and let's start getting some ideas here. And there's so many places I could start, but I'm just gonna basically just kind of dive in here. So first of all, you said, Eric, you talked about smaller retailers. So my question is does the type of store matter in this drive to get more traffic, to push more traffic into your stores? Does it matter if I'm an introductory price store, a mid-range, high end? Are there different, because we've got different people watching this, so are there different challenges to driving traffic for those that have, let's say, just first of all, a difference in the type of customer that they're looking for?
So I say each has their own individual challenge, really. It's interesting when you break down stores by, if you think about it from a term of demographic, right? So if we said, hey, I focus on a more, lower income user. I personally think that rent to own is going to be one of those things that we see take a surge over the next, 12 to 24 months. If I didn't have a rent to own program in my store, I would probably create one right now, just because it takes off a little bit of the pressure from, needing to come up with the cash now. But they all have their own individual struggles, right? The higher end stores that cater to a higher end customer are going to be a little less affected, but each of them relies on finding the right audience of people to go after. As long as you understand and know your customer, right? Scott and I preach this nonstop. You have to know your customer. By knowing your customer, that allows you to target the right customer. So, if I'm a mid-range store, if I'm a low price leader, I need to know exactly who it is I need to be targeting in my market. And if you can solve that first problem, then you can get to the driving traffic problem pretty quickly. But most stores don't actually know who their customer is, and they take more of a broad generalized approach to marketing where they're hitting the masses, or they're doing direct mail to the masses. Maybe they're doing circulars, and it's not targeted enough, and that's going to cost them to spend a lot of money on people that aren't going to convert. And so if they know their customer a little bit better, if they can dig into their data, then they'll be better off. It depends on, and now when you get into like the type of store, I think sometimes and Scott and I have talked about this, is it goes to the in-store experience. You need to have a good in-store experience. Customers still want a good in-store experience. They want good customer service, and you need something to hook them and bring them in. I had a meeting with a mattress manufacturer at Market when we were out in Vegas, and we were planning out their sales for the next 2 quarters. And one of the things that I noticed on all the sales was that there was really not enough financing opportunities. It was like, it was the same tried and true stuff, right? $500 off this, get a free pillow, but my first question was, why isn't there financing on every single one of these sales? There should be
showing a monthly payment.
Yeah, I mean, like you have to have financing offers on everything right now. And I don't care if you're at a high-end store, a mid-range store, or a low-end store, you should be talking about financing, because everybody is strapped for a little bit of cash.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind waiting on that.
But let me just clarify though. Let me just clarify real quick though. But are those offers driving people in? I mean, the point of today's
Yes.
webinar here is about driving traffic. You're saying not only should you have it, but are we finding that to be an effective driver right now?
Right now it is, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Like with each swing in the market, right? When we came out of COVID, when there was demand, then all of a sudden there wasn't things in stock, right? There's always a defining message that works really well. Right now, financing is the thing to be talking about. If you're not talking about financing in your marketing right now, you're doing yourself a disservice.
And I would weigh in a little bit more on that, Mark, and just say, customers need a wide array of financing options. So your financing ecosystem needs to include a waterfall type financing experience on your website, where it'll walk them through, like say Synchrony, and then bounce them through a secondary lender like a Genesis, and then a lease to own towards the end, so that you're approving 70+% of people that do that online finance. Same thing in the store, whether you're using a charge after or a Versatile or someone, and then add on top of that a buy now pay later solution like Affirm or Bread or Klarna, which are a younger demographic, but also a more tech savvy demographic. The more options, the better right now. And from what I've seen across brands I've worked with, financing is anywhere from 40 to 50% of all of the revenue. It's very important to customers. And if you talk to Synchrony, they're seeing more people choose Synchrony and financing as part of their share of payment methods than ever before.
And the key thing here is that what I hear you both saying is not only do you have to have it, but this needs to be part of your promotion, again, to drive people in, to make sure that they understand that they're gonna have options when they get there, right? So that's not something you want to leave just to when they get in the door. You're saying it can be a draw. Interesting. We've already had a question pop in here based upon this. Now you've got the flip side of it. We have somebody watching that said 50% of their business is special order. So now then you've got a little bit of a financing. It's just a different animal when it's special order, right? So what about how to manage that from a traffic driving standpoint? Eric, why don't you start on that one?
Well, I mean, like just driving traffic for special orders is a special type of customer, right? The average
customer as well.
Yeah, the average customer is not coming in looking for a special order, right? That is a specialty customer, which means it's a specialty audience, which means that you need to identify first what those customers look like. So if you can figure out the demographics of the people in your market that are doing the bulk of your special order business, then you can find out where those people live, where they exist, where they're shopping, what they're interested in, what's going to drive them into your store, find out what makes them tick. Then you have to make a special offer for them. We worked with this store in Texas, and I want to say it was in San Antonio. It's been such a long time, but they had this wheel that they used to spin inside their store, where you could, potentially get your whole order for free. And obviously, like, not for necessarily maybe a special order business, but for a lot of customers, like a hook like that, the opportunity to, really save a lot, or, that's something that's interesting, one that people will talk about after they leave, especially if somebody actually wins, right? But it might cost you a little bit here and there, but overall, it's such a good hook that it's going to bring people in. So, it doesn't matter if it's special order or not, it's all about the hook.
And Scott, then answer this for me. I mean, we kind of know the answer, but I'd love to hear you preface this. So how do you suggest to the retailers that are watching this right now to truly know who their audience is? And it's not just identifying the fact that, well, we think that it's in this, anecdotal range here, but how do you know? Because man, you guys have already harped on this as the key to not only driving traffic, but obviously you're going to be spending your money more wisely. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. One way that I like to do, and it's a little bit more advanced, but there's people out there that can help you, like LS Direct or Experian, maybe
Esquire.
even LiveRamp. What were you saying? Esquire.
Esquire.
Yeah. I should. That's the default answer, Esquire. But running your transactional data. Say, take a year or two of your transactional records, run it through Esquire or run it through some kind of tool that will break down who are your customers, what do they look like. Experian has a real nice way of segmenting people by age and education and income and home ownership, and do they have kids and where do they live. Another key understanding is understanding where your customers are coming from. What zip codes are you attracting at each of your store locations? And then you can use that information for targeting. So you're not wasting money on a customer that's maybe an hour drive time that's never going to go to your store. Concentrate on the ones that you're pulling in to just be efficient.
And what I love about this too is and I'm just thinking from the business owner standpoint, you're also saving me money right now, because
Absolutely.
I'm not doing a scattergun approach, right? I'm not just hitting every possible digital channel and just hoping for the best. I hear you guys loud and clear saying that if you really truly want to drive traffic, you figure out who that customer is, where they're living, and let that be your bread and butter, right? I mean, don't feel like you got to appeal to everybody. Go after the people that you get the best success with first as kind of your foundational traffic. I mean, I know that I'm so great. I'm so great at stating the obvious, right?
It's like finding
broadcasting on TV. It's this wide spray kind of thing, and TV, like broadcast TV specifically, is what I'm talking about. It's a shrinking and aging demographic. But if you know the geography of your customers and you know the demographics of what they look like, you can get right to them through Esquire, on social media, on streaming TV, and you're getting right to people that are fans of your business and in proximity to where they're going to visit your store and buy from you.
It's about finding the pockets of where your traffic comes from, and then also identifying the holes of where your traffic doesn't come from, right? Sure. If you were, and look, retailers obviously could come to a company like ours, or go to someone else, and you can find people that will do this analysis for you. But at the baseline, if I was trying to do this on my own, sit down with an Excel sheet, learn how to make a pivot table. You can look it up on YouTube. And I'm being serious. And the first thing that you do is do a zip code analysis. Organize all of your sales by zip and do a count of zip, and figure out what are the top 3 zip codes that your traffic comes in from. At least knowing and understanding that one point is going to allow you to be more geographically relevant with all of your advertising, right? So,
let me. I want to drill down on one thing there, because. And I'm not trying to take food out of your mouth, but the interesting thing is I also think when you get to, if you have that level of understanding as a store owner, when I do then start to gain more success and I want to expand and I come to somebody like Esquire or another firm, I would think I'm in a much better position, A, to speak the language, B, to really help you guys, work together to come up with a plan, right? I mean, I would think that would just mean great things for you, stepping into an engagement, somebody that's out there thinking, well, we're kind of getting bigger, so I want to bring an agency in.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want them to have that vocabulary right out of the gates?
I mean, it'd be great if they did. Most retailers don't. Usually people come to us and we're lucky if they even understand and know how to pull data from their own system.
Okay.
Unfortunately, most of the CRMs and point of sale systems that are out there that are utilized in the furniture industry are usually quite antiquated and difficult in order to get data out of. And so most retailers, when they first, look at doing this and getting to it, they hit an immediate roadblock where they're like, I just don't know how to get the information out. And, so I always tell people the first thing that you should be doing is calling the CRM company that you work with and say, look, they might even have ways to run that report for you that you don't even know. And some of that stuff, they might even run the report for you and do it for free. So you're worth asking. The other thing is that there are certain manufacturers out there. You look at like Tempur Sealy International, for example. They have a retail edge program that they provide to all of their retailers around the United States, and they have this thing called the Map App tool, which is a free tool to all of their retailers that they can be utilizing to understand where there are premium zip codes available in their market that they could be advertising into. So, there's most manufacturers in the space now are taking the approach that our sales reps need to know about marketing and need to know how to assist these retailers more. So, those are free tools available to you as a retailer. Lean on all of your reps, ask them those questions. What are you going to do for me? How are you driving traffic to my store? What should I be doing? Ask that of all your manufacturers reps, because you'd be shocked to find out the tools that they have that you never knew that existed.
I got a couple things to add on that too, Mark.
Go for it.
Well, two things. Synchrony, if you're a Synchrony customer or whoever your primary lender is, they have great tools for you as well. Customer analysis or marketing programs, that they're a large financial institution. They have a lot of, they have a lot of things at their disposal that can help the retailers. The second thing I was going to add was just a little tip. If you're doing a zip code analysis and you're breaking out the spreadsheet or you're doing it with someone, also understand what is your average sale by zip code. There are some stores, like say, in a certain part of California, where they will pull customers from Compton, and they're also pulling customers from Ranchos Palos Verdes Estates. And you may have $1,000 average ticket from Compton, and you may have a $2,000 average ticket from Ranchos Palos Verdes Estates. So you can segment, I would call richer zip codes from other zip codes, and you may be willing to pay more on a cost per click basis for those, or you may want to lean into those with other marketing channels. So I'd also, add that little piece if you're going to do that kind of analysis.
I just love it that we've not been, that we're not even halfway through this webinar today, and already you've talked about some key takeaways, and I have a feeling so many people are sitting there taking notes, because it's like you've got tools at your fingertips to learn more about your customer. Use those, use everything you can. Not going to cost you anything more than what you're paying right now, number one. Number two, that knowledge is going to help you with all your spend and where, so that's going to become more efficient. Eric, you said something interesting when you said most retailers don't do this. Well, that's exactly why we're here today to say, don't be like the crowd. Be more educated and do that. It's right. I love that. That's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like the furniture industry is interesting because it's usually like lagged by I'd say 3 to 5 years behind whatever is the latest, right? And maybe it's not typical to the furniture industry. I think maybe it's just industries in general, but people hate change, right? And so everybody wants to do what was working for them, but unfortunately, what worked in 2004 and 2008 and 2012 is not the same things that work today. And the tools are so much greater now than what existed before.
Sure.
So, you have to ask the questions of what tools are available, and you have to use the latest and greatest thing. Scott mentioned how broadcast TV is very general and you can get to the right customer using streaming TV. We're seeing across the United States right now that customers that get a streaming television ad on average spend $400 more in store than other customers that didn't receive a streaming television ad. So just by running that piece of marketing, you can up your ticket prices. So it doesn't mean that you can erase everything else, but marketing is a multitude of touches. You need to be touching them in so many different ways. But to not have that piece right now is risky because you're missing out on free money essentially. And, it's also one of the last mediums where you can't skip the ad. So what do you want when you're advertising, right? You want time in front of consumer. You want them to hear your message, see your message, understand the message. Well, TV was the most impactful medium, and TV still is the most impactful medium. It's just now it's done through streaming. So, moving those dollars from linear to streaming is a big change that can save you money and also result in higher ticket prices and more sales.
Yep. I mean, you just made a really good ad for OTT on that. I mean, a lot of people that are delving into that. I mean, heck, that's incredible.
Yeah.
One thing I want to dispel, we get a lot of questions that came in prior to, and I think this is going to be a quick answer. I'll let Scott handle this one. It sounds to me like there are no gimmicks, no just add waters in any of this. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. There's no gimmicky, easy way. I mean, you can try those things if you want to jeopardize your brand a little bit, but no, there's no gimmicks on this.
Okay, good. I figured that was a quick and easy answer, but it comes up a lot. People want that. What is that? What is the little pill that I can use, if you will, that's going to really make sure everything, all of a sudden I've got customers coming in the door.
I do have a bit of advice, that I see commonly across our industry, across the U.S. And I have good relationships with, a wide range of size of businesses around. But one thing that I see happening a lot, and I'm willing to help, but I like to look at what people are doing and how much they're spending on their brand search. That's the number one thing I see people wasting money on is the brand search.
And why is that?
Well, people think I've got to spend all this money for Google to protect my brand because my competitor's going to search for my brand name and I'm going to lose all this business. And, I used to be in that camp a few years ago, and I still am to a degree. So number one, I think you should do it, but there's a specific technique on how you do it. When you go into Google, you don't want automated bidding in place. You want manual bidding, and you want to start by putting your, per click price at 1 cent, like a penny. And then you start ratcheting that up manually until you get like a 60 to 70% search impression share. And it's probably 50 to 80% cheaper than if you let that go on automated bidding. And that money you save, you can put into OTT, you can put into YouTube, Performance Max, non-brand search, true prospecting to bring people in. I have a theory, and I haven't proven it out yet, but I think more than 50% of people that are searching for a furniture brand name, they're just looking for a phone number to call, or they're already a big fan of your business if they're searching for your brand. The chances of your competitor stealing that person away are slim to none for the most part. Mm-hmm. But I do have a guide. If anyone wants to reach out to me after this, I have a guide on exactly how to do brand search and do it the right way and be super efficient with it. And then all of a sudden you'll have this extra dollars. Don't have to spend any more money. Just do it the right way, and you can shift that towards other channels that can work for you.
Yeah. Eric, I'd love for you to jump in on that from the standpoint of, a lot of the questions we get also are related to brand and this whole traffic driving situation. So how does it, I mean, Scott gave us just an example right now of not being too overly focused on brand, but talk a little bit about that, because, we talked about knowing the customer, et cetera, but how does your brand fit into that, and how should it fit into that?
Sure. So, as far as like when you're doing on Google, the thing that people forget is that Google search, when you're doing keyword defense, that's what I call basically defending your keyword, right? So you don't have to spend a lot of money on that. Like, most retailers should probably not be spending more than $1,000 a month on it. But you have to obviously look at the traffic and see how much is out there and what's pulling from it. But the key to that whole strategy is supposed to be that you are defending against a keyword while at the same time you're building up the SEO to replace it. So too often people just continue to spend the money. They don't realize that search traffic per click for it, what you're really doing is getting an understanding and getting data in to tell you what you need to work on your SEO for. Your search is supposed to basically supplement it in order to make up for when you come up 5th on the page or you don't even show up at all, right? Like we use search to basically bring up that ratio. But as soon as you learn those keywords, then you start working on the SEO for it, so that way you don't have to keep on spending. But you have to be doing it to some extent, because there's always going to be someone out there that's smart enough to go, oh, I can just bid on, the Rooms to Go name and steal some Rooms to Go traffic, right? You have to do some of it always and keep it out there. But ultimately, I always say, like, if you're relying on search to drive traffic to your store in the first place, you're already too late, because that is a stumble upon sort of mentality, right? You don't want to rely on customers to stumble upon your advertising. You want to go out there and conquest your customers to bring them to your store. So search them out, find them, drive traffic from them to you. Don't wait for them just to search for you. Like Scott thinks they're looking for the phone number. I think that most people are probably looking for the address so that they can come drive to you.
Sure.
The risk in not doing keyword defense is that it is so easy with certain types of stores where names sound so familiar or similar, like Mattress Warehouse, Mattress Firm, Mattress Guys, like anything that has the word mattress in it can be so like similar that the person could see the ad for it, think that that's where they want to go. Now all of a sudden they've been to someone else's thing. So you're basically defending up against confusion, really, because if I'm looking for the Ashley Home Store, I'm going to find the Ashley Home Store, but a really savvy retailer could be out there and bidding on Ashley keywords and say, we carry Ashley furniture, and then steal some traffic away, right? So
I think it really depends on the brand, as to how you approach that. And I want to add one other point. If you're working with an agency, I would force them to separate out all your KPIs for your brand efforts versus your non-brand efforts. Because another thing that I see all the time is brands taking credit for this great return on ad spend that they're getting you. Hey, you're spending $1, you're getting 10, but they're including the freebies, I like to call it. People are searching for your brand. Make them bifurcate those efforts out and report on them differently, so that you know truly what your prospecting, investment is getting you versus what your, keyword protection and your brand name search is getting you.
Yeah, you have to understand the results, right? Like we do a lot of like past customer campaigns, which, if you're not, that's another thing that every retailer that's watching this right now should be doing. You should be going after all of your past customers.
Absolutely.
And advertising to them. You don't want to overdo it because you'll push them away. If you're doing it off of email, I wouldn't hit them more than maybe twice a month. If you're doing it over text, I wouldn't hit them more than once a month with a text. But
I would disagree with both of those statements, by the way.
You want to go more? I think you run the risk of pushing them away, honestly. Like I think you'll get a lot of unsubscribes if you do it too much.
I don't think so. And I'm going
to referee this thing. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I've seen it and tested it. We can fight about it.
Yeah, we can. I mean, look.
I think the correct cadence is either once every day or once every other day. And during key holiday times, I would do twice a day, morning and evening. And I've tested this. I've done this with millions on an email list, and the unsubscribe rate doesn't really change. People, if you way overdo it, I can see that.
Yeah.
But I would recommend every other day, maybe every other day, test it and see what your unsubscribe rate is. And the SMSs, I think I would recommend once a week. That's one that's real intimate because it's hitting your cell phone. So you want to be careful with that. But email as a whole, if you're not email marketing and doing it right, and you've got triggers and you've got second touches and abandoned cart, abandoned search, and you're not really trying to sign people up as much as possible, email is the best ROI you're going to have. So get into it if you're not.
Two things. One, we had a question come through that I want to just mention that we will of course follow up. And Scott, a couple people are asking about that guide you had. We'll follow up with communication after the webinar relating to that. But one thing that didn't have in my notes here, but you just really kind of got me to it. When you talk about those existing customers, is how important in the campaigns that you guys have seen. If you have any case studies, it'd be great. Have you seen that group? Not just them coming back as a customer, but as a referral source, because we know how strong referrals can be. Can you talk about that? Because I think in some ways that's a lost art.
Sure. So, first, just as far as like getting them to return to store, there are two things you need to be focused on when targeting past customers. One is increasing the frequency of which they return to you and the speed of which they return to you, right? That's effort number one, right? And then effort number two is education. Most of the time, past customers are not frequenting your store more often than not because they just don't know what's going on. They don't know about all the sales. And so
What's new? Yep.
offering them a special VIP sales event for past customers works really well. And then as far as like getting referrals, I find that there's really two main ways that you can do this. The first is obviously offer a referral fee to customers, right? So you refer a customer to us and they bring it in, then you get $50 off your next purchase or whatever it is, right? 10% off something. Give them something to be your advocate. The other is a campaign that we actually created, which is called a friends and family campaign, which is literally to bring in referral business and expand word of mouth. And the way that we do this is by looking at the households that you deliver to. And after the date of delivery, we extract out all the friends and family members that visit that household for the next 30 to 45 days and then target them with an advertisement. We do this because what has happened now is that if I bought a living room set from you and I bring it home, you know, obviously I'm going to sit on that living room set. My friends and family are going to sit in that living room set. I'm going to say, hey, check out my new couch. You know, I got it over here, right? So now I'm giving a real in-person review of the furniture, the product, the customer service, the store. So word of mouth advertising, one of the oldest and longest running pieces of advertising that's ever existed that most people don't know how to really capitalize on. This allows you to do that and turn all of your past customers into influencers. So if you can work on increasing the frequency of which people return to you, you'll make so much more money faster. I can tell you across the board, all of our clients that run past customer campaigns, it is typically one of the highest ROI campaigns that they can run.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah. I have some research that I can add on to what Eric just said on the earlier side of his comment. If you can get, we did this research. I'm not going to tell the name of the company, but let's just say it's a nationwide discount furniture chain. But we did some research, and if you can get that customer to do a second purchase within the next like 3 to 12 months, and I'm not saying add on an extra nightstand to a bedroom set, right. But the next room, the next logical purchase, the next mattress, a larger purchase. If you can get that second purchase in there fairly quickly, the chance of them becoming a lifelong customer or a brand advocate goes up 50%. You know, so you really want to get them in that next time because you're going to increase purchase frequency and customer lifetime value over time.
Love it. So another great takeaway. And really, what I love about that is that's a twofold reason to really engage current customers, is not only to get them in to increase their frequency and their loyalty, is what Scott, you just talked about right there. I mean, that can be a lifelong loyalty. But yeah, I love the line you said, Eric, kind of turn them into de facto influencers, you know, on a small scale. And you said that word, let me just ask, because it is another of the many questions here. When it comes to traffic driving, are influencers critical to that? Can they be? How does an influencer fit in or not fit into this?
So not your typical influencer, right? Like, so if you're talking about like an Instagram influencer or a TikTok influencer or something like that, like, you know, could you gain buzz? Could you like, you know, have a, you know, a real big showing in your parking lot of people that want to come and like meet this influencer? Yeah. And I've seen retailers do it. Does it really result in sales for them? Not usually. It usually just ends up in a lot of people that are in the parking lot and then just kind of jamming up things, right? So,
okay.
So, you know, you need to focus on who your influencers are in your market for your store. And ultimately that is your customers, right? You know, everybody always says, look, you need to get them to go on and do Facebook reviews. You need to get them to go on and do Google reviews. And those things do matter, right? You do want to do that. But ultimately, you need something that customer is going to speak about when they leave. And so you need some sort of hook, something that's going to make them want to talk about why they came to your store. And, you know, it can be something simple. You know, I forget which conference we were at. Maybe it was an FMG one or something. The guy told the story about the cookie at the DoubleTree, right? You know, that like, you know, it's something that people talk about, right? That like the DoubleTree gives away this cookie and everybody knows about the cookie at the DoubleTree, right? Such a simple idea that has created so much word of mouth business for them. And it's true. And doing something like that and coming up with something that's like a hook that's going to create people to talk about you in your market is great. You know, and if I'm a local business, I'm a small business owner, you know, I really do think you have to be involved in your community. You know, as you know, most people, sponsor little league teams, do all those things. I mean, those things do matter. Now, is it going to bring you foot traffic right away? No, but it's building brand recognitions. It's building brand loyalty. It's showing that you're a part of the community. And we are in a time as a nation, as a society where, we do want to support small businesses. We do want to support locally owned and operated businesses. If you've been in existence for, 80 years and this business has been passed down from generation to generation to generation, you should be talking about that because that's unique to you. And far often we see that people don't talk about the things that actually make them unique in the marketplace. They just talk about the brand, the product, the thing that they have on sale. But what about them? What about their store? Who are they? Make that connection to a consumer and you're going to do a lot better.
And I would just to give everybody listening to this a case study, go check out Built Right Furniture in the Milwaukee area. It's BILTRATE, all caps, furniture. They just won one of our Retailer of the Year awards, and I had the honor of going up there and awarding them. This is their 95th year, and man, it's a part of everything they do. It talks about multi-generations. We've been here, we've been a part of this community for so long. It's brilliant how they've done it, and they've just started promoting that this year. But they've always talked about their legacy. But there's a case study, check them out, and you'll understand why the judges thought that they were worthy of a Retailer of the Year award, definitely. Love that. Let me ask you this, as far as so many of the questions, people are looking, for sort of specific answers in areas that it's so unique and individual. But everybody's kind of asking which channels, and we talked a little bit already about OTT, et cetera.
Yeah.
But so in traffic driving, and Scott, I'll start with you. Are there channels that you think are becoming the most effective for driving traffic, or is once again this going to be different, region to region, city to city, store to store?
Yes. Well, I mean, I would definitely, just going back to our prior conversation, I'd be shifting money from broadcast to OTT. The second thing I would mention is don't forget about YouTube. YouTube is a great store driver, and it comes with a lot of data and reporting against it. Average is about $10 CPMs, so it's fairly efficient. You can easily control your frequency. You can do 6-second ads to create a lot of awareness. You can do 15-second ads. You can do 30-second ads. You can do long format if you want. And they also have a program called True View for YouTube, which means you don't pay a penny unless somebody watches that whole ad. And even if somebody skips an ad within 6 seconds, if in that first seconds your offer and your brand is loud and proud, even if they click it, they saw it and you're not paying for it. And it's very efficient at driving store traffic. Through years of reporting on this, it drives traffic at about a $10 cost per store visit. So think about that, $10 to get a body in the door. Now, I think it's probably a little bit more because that doesn't count for multi-channel attribution. Like they maybe were aware of your brand, or maybe they got an email, maybe they had a Facebook ad. There could have been some other things that helped push that YouTube. It's not just that one YouTube thing drove them. There's other things that probably had an impact, but that's pretty big. And another little tip that I'll give people that are watching that not a lot of people understand or know about is you can target the TV as a device so that you're in the living room where someone's watching it on their smart TV. And what that gives you is that second screen opportunity. That gives that customer that's watching and they're like, oh, that's a great sofa. They can whip out their cell phone and go to your website without interrupting their viewing experience. And sometimes you don't get that on mobile, although on mobile, technically maybe someone's out and about and they can go to your store, but don't forget about that, and to get $10 CPMs on the TV as a device in the living room, you also get co-viewing. There may be 3 or 4 people in there watching YouTube together, so you're exposing to more people, where if you're really just focused in on a mobile device, it's just one person staring at their phone like all of our teenagers do. So don't forget about YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, do you have any thoughts about that as well, as far as channel?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to be advertising in socials. I think if you're not advertising in socials, you're behind the times. I mean, it's not the best channel out there right now is OTT and CTV. So for those people that don't understand what those two things mean,
and I would agree with that.
Yeah, like OTT and CTV basically refers to streaming television ads. OTT is referring to like all the places it could be, like, the different individual apps, and that they could be on any device, like so it could be on an iPad or whatever. CTV is saying, just on the TV itself. Both of those things together really are performing very, very well across the market. The problem with it has been up until now that usually the barriers to entry to get into that have been really high. We're pretty proud of at Esquire that we've removed all those barriers to entry. So, if people are looking to get into this, area, they can hit us up. We can explain to them how it all works. But, you can start advertising on television, on streaming television for $1,200 a month. I mean,
Yep.
That's just a no-brainer. Everybody should be doing that. Because you can be targeted with it. You can select the right customers. So you go back to your question about the entry store, the mid-level store, the high-end store. All of them could be running the exact same budget in the exact same market to different customers. So they're never overlapping with each other because they're only targeting television ads to the right person that has the most likelihood of shopping with them. That's the efficiency you need right now.
The other thing too is using your own first-party data, like your own customer list.
Yeah.
You can make sure that your current campaign or financing message is in front of people that already know your brand, and you can't really do that on broadcast TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about the past customer campaigns, right? Email's great, text message is great, TV is also great, but you just can't do it on linear. So you got to get with the times.
Should a retailer be posting on YouTube? I mean, I know you talked about the advertising piece. I mean, should they have a YouTube channel as well, or are those two things just never able to be really connected?
So I would say, I mean, you can. It takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. If you want to build out a whole library of videos and have a big presence on there, you can certainly do that. I would recommend just kind of using your TV creative and do it in a YouTube way, where the offer and the brand is in the first 6 seconds. The same type of content works on TV that works on YouTube. It's a different creative arc. And I have the creative arc if anyone wants to reach out to me. The old creative arc was this bell curve, and the new creative arc is you spike up, then you kind of tell the story, you spike again, and then you lead off. But you don't put the offer or the message in the middle of the ad, you put it in the very beginning. So there's a certain way to kind of construct your creative. But should a brand create a YouTube channel? If you're a larger brand and you have the time and energy and resources and the desire to do it, why not? But I don't think
if you're creating videos regularly, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about like starting it up, but there's a lot of these retailers that are members of ours that are creating videos all the time. I just didn't know if that would make sense.
The reason why load them up, it's not gonna hurt you.
Yeah, it's not gonna hurt you. And here's the reason why I would do it, right? So every retailer should go and create a Pinterest account. They should have a Twitter account. They should have an Instagram account. They should have a YouTube account. They should have an account on every single medium possible, because all of that's gonna help play into your SEO as well, right? So think about it. You could go out and create all these different Pinterest boards on your Pinterest page with furniture that you have at your store. So, there's a lot of traffic out there to get that can come very organically, but all of that works together to boost SEO over time anyways. So to not have it, like, what's it doing for you? If you have it and it still doesn't do that much, but even if it increases your SEO even 1%, that's 1% you didn't have. And it took you what, a day to load up some videos to YouTube? I mean, I would bet that most retailers have at least 1 or 2 employees in their store that already have Pinterest pages, and so know how to use it very well and could very easily go and create one for the store. So those things are like simple things that you can do that most people are not taking advantage of.
And I want to point out, by the way, that April 6th, we're gonna have a webinar about Pinterest. So hopefully we'll get you now interested, since it's something that Eric and Scott both think is a great place to start. So one of the questions that just came in and is also on the previous questions here too. So let's talk a little bit now. And first of all, there's some phenomenal takeaways in this webinar, but let's talk about best practices to measure ROI and the measurability piece. I know we talked about a lot here, and if you guys want to split it up, great, but can you kind of break it down a little bit? Because, if we're really talking about driving traffic, there's even a question I think about how you measure what kind of traffic we're talking about, and you got to define that in the measure. But let's talk about measurement. And Scott, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you're not measuring, if you don't have a door counter, get a door counter. I mean, that's kind of one of the basics things. And I would say also go beyond what the typical measurements are with your online efforts. You know, everyone really focuses in on that conversion rate and time on site and bounce rate. There's other activities that happen on your website that are indicative of intent. You know, measure how many people engage with your live chat, create a segment and understand how those people convert better than others. You know, how many people click to apply for credit, how many people click for directions, how many people that click to call the store. You know, those types of behaviors are just as important as the e-com conversion. So measure everything. You know, your website is a lead machine for your business, whether it's driving people and inspiring them to go inside the store or to transact online or to engage with your online chat team or pick up the phone. You want that customer to do something, you know, take some kind of action and inspire them with great photography, great video, great product pages, an engaging website, you know, and who cares where they transact? You know, some people want to buy online, some people want to buy on store. Inspire those people and measure those other touch points, and don't just hone in on that conversion rate or, hey, what percentage of e-com is our total revenue? That's not really the way to look at it. You know, look at it from a holistic perspective. How is this driving our overall business? Because it has a huge impact. I mean, we did another research study that I was a part of, and over 94% of people that are inside of a store have been to your website before. Think about that. And the more, there's a direct correlation between traffic that goes to your website and people that show up in the store. Direct correlation. I've tested it.
Eric, what are your thoughts about measurability and ROI, et cetera?
Yeah, I think the key term you have to remember is measure what matters, right? So if you think about things and measure what matters, then you'll be on the right track. And when I say that, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that people are trying to measure that really don't matter, right? Understand what kind of traffic that you're driving and how it should look and what it should look like. You have to measure what you look like in comparison to your competitors. You have to look at foot traffic for your market. You need to be looking at optimization of the foot traffic that's coming in your door. And when I say that, it means like, so are you measuring the ups that your reps are taking, right? What was the driving piece that got that customer into the door? And then is that rep good or bad at closing that particular type of customer for the thing that they came in looking for, right? So if you can start to optimize your foot traffic in store, and then bring it into the individual reps that you're assigning to the leads when they come in, then you'll be even that much better. From an online data standpoint, in my opinion, if you don't know down to the penny what you're getting in return for the dollars that you're spending on your advertising, then you're not measuring what matters, right? This year in particular, retailers are going to be looking to spend less money and be more efficient. So do not spend into black holes. You need to understand where those dollars are going and what you're getting in return. If you're measuring your marketing by saying this should do 1% or less or around 1%, you've already missed the mark, right?
Yeah, I do it.
If you're estimating what the return on ad spend is, then you've missed the mark.
Yes.
You need to know. You have to measure what matters. You have to dive into the data. If you're not tracking sales information and customer information when they're coming in your door, start doing it. It could be as simple as starting a spreadsheet and starting to take it down. There are a lot of retailers out there that still write things down and use paper tickets, right? That stuff has to stop. You have to start tracking all of this information.
Yeah, I would add, like, the secret question to ask, whether it's online with a survey or in store, as part of your greeting process, it's not what advertising or what brought you in. I would ask, what inspired you to come in today? What inspired you to come in? Because people forget, certain channels and things, but when you ask them the inspiration question, they'll tell you what really, motivated them to take that action.
And that's the differentiator, right? I mean, if you can pull that out of them, you now know what was, I call them scale tippers, right? What was that thing that got you there? And boy, talk about valuable information. And I also want to just kind of tie what you guys just said into the measurability back to the beginning of this conversation, which is when we talked about the fact of knowing your customer. That is still the starting point, so that this measurability really does matter. It's not, if it's all just scattergun and you're just kind of getting lucky bringing people in, you're not going to know where you can efficiently spend money. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
You can't measure anything without data.
And you can't manage anything you can't measure.
Right.
Yeah, measure everything you measure.
I'm drawing. We drew that sentence out. I know we've got a few more minutes here, and I wanted to, Scott, I wanted to give you a chance, and Eric to chime in as well. I know that you've also had some insights about some in-store type events, if you will, or ways to draw people in with that type of an element as well. Let's talk about that briefly before we go.
Okay, well, I mean, one thing I've seen pretty common out there is retailers have, like say there's a contest to win something, or like Eric said earlier, like a spin to win thing. I've tested that at different brands with, hey, you can go online and fill out this form. If you really want to drive people inside the stores, have that activation be in the store. If there's like a free giveaway, like say you're giving away a free pillow for the first 20 people that show up, make that pillow at the very back of the store in the mattress area, but create excitement and events that people have to kind of go into the store to activate, whether it's an enter to win or a spin the wheel. If you're doing those type of promotional things, make sure that those are activated at the location to drive that type of behavior.
Yeah. And I would say, just to add to that is, you don't have to always give something away. You have to give away the belief that they could win something big, right?
Yeah, that's just valuable.
You know what I mean? It's giving away a pillow is going to drive in a certain type of customer. A lot of times people are just looking to pick up that pillow and they're going to leave, right?
Yep. And I've seen that.
If you tie it to, a purchase, like, you purchase and then you have a chance of getting, 50% off or 75% off or whatever it is, right? It's the chance, the gamble, that's going to get someone to go, well, we were thinking about buying over there, but if we buy it here, we have a chance that we're going to spend 60% less. Well,
or get a discount or get it for free. And I would have the customer do that after they've bought, then they get the spin.
Yes.
And if they win something, I would take a picture of that and put it on your social media, especially if they win the thing for free. I mean, exploit
100%.
that.
And also, I know that this came up earlier, but I think you're also suggesting too that for a lot of these really terrific local businesses that so many of our members are, not just the chains, but the local businesses, that also those community involved events, things like that, where you can bring some excitement into the store. And I imagine that's got to be some of the secret sauce as well, because you're also really connecting with the community. Would you guys agree with that or have any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think any community involvement is good, right? For any brand. It doesn't matter if you're selling furniture, you're selling apples, right? Like, the more that you can be involved in your community, especially if you're an independent operator, the better off you're going to be, because there's a connection that happens with the consumer, right? It's like if you go to a restaurant and, the general manager or the owner comes by and talks to you afterwards and says, hey, like, I'm the manager here, like there's, maybe they write on the back of the card, hey, next time you come in, you get 25% off. It feels special, it feels individualized, and people buy into that and then they come back, and that's how you build repeat business. Having some connection to those consumers will make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, maybe consider even giving your store managers a small budget. If you've got, say, 5 to 10 locations or more or less, it doesn't matter. Give them a little budget. Maybe it's $500 a quarter or $1,000 a quarter, and let them invest that money where they see fit. And that might be a boys or girls club that's down the street, or an employee's little kids soccer team or little league baseball. Let them make that decision, because they're closely tied to that community and they probably know best where to put that.
Yep.
Love it. We've had so many phenomenal takeaways today. I'm going to make this suggestion. As I mentioned to you once again with our closing slide here, we talk about the fact that you can, again, learn more about this subject and everything else on our website. You see the store traffic driver here. That's the address. But you go to myhfa.org/webinar, you find them all. But I almost feel like you should watch this a second time, because I don't know that I was able to take all the notes and get them all down. So folks, I'm going to just shamelessly say you need to watch this a second time. I want to thank, and I can't thank you guys enough. This has been outstanding. But Eric Grinley, CEO and co-founder of Esquire Advertising, the 2023 Partner of the Year at HFA. Does that sound good? Doesn't that sound good?
It feels really good. It feels real nice. Yeah, I gotta be honest.
I just want to make sure it does. And and Scott Perry, who's got just so much experience. And Scott, I just thank you so much for being so willing to lend that support to our members here through this effort here. And next time we will let you play a guitar solo, but not today. We don't have time.
Hey, Mark,
and I get to pick which guitar you're going to use over the back.
And Mark, if we can real quick, Scott and I obviously have that marketing retail podcast. And so for all the questions that we didn't get to answer today and anything that, that needs to be dived into a little bit deeper, we're going to do small 15, 20-minute segments on the marketing retail podcast that people can go back and listen to those questions, and we'll dive even further into it. And it's available on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you go. So look for it. And we'll be doing those segments in the next coming weeks.
Appreciate it. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. And I always like to end these webinars by wishing everybody not only great sales, but great health. On behalf of all of us here at HFA, I'm Mark Schumacher. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.
Thank you.